Burgundy? Hello and welcome back to the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. Now you may or may not be aware, but Mazda turned 100 years old last year, and to celebrate they've released a couple of special edition models, and today we have one, the CX-30 100th anniversary. So how do you tell the anniversary model apart from a standard CX-30? Well, I'm going to show you. Badge, 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 badge. And there's one you may have spotted already. It's the burgundy leather seats and the burgundy carpet. The leather seats have the embossed logo on the headrest, and there's another logo here on the floor mat. It's every time I say burgundy, I just think of Ron Burgundy, but anyway. Burgundy? Oh, and they're electric too. See? On top of that, it's basically kitted out to the nines with everything you could want. There's a head-up display, there's heated seats, there's heated steering wheel, there's dual-zone climate control, and there's radar-guided cruise control. On top of that, there is an endless list of safety features on this thing. Honestly, the amount of acronyms on the list is absolutely bonkers, and there's pages of it on the infotainment system. Either way, loads of safety stuff to keep you safe, would you believe? There's also the 360 parking view where you see down on the cars it's moving around. That's very handy for parking. Now there is a reason for the burgundy interior and the white exterior. You see, Mazda are 100 years old, but originally they made cork rather than cars. But in 1960 they made the R360 coupe, and that had the red burgundy interior and white exterior and a red roof, and it's this tiny little cute coupe. And basically they're paying tribute to that with this setup. The infotainment is controlled via dials down here on the center console, so no touchscreen today. It's actually not a bad thing because it's quite far away, but you control them down here, and it actually does make sense, and I did enjoy using it down here. It was a bit safer when you're driving, and you can you're not taking your eye off the road as much as if you were touching the screen here because the controls are down here. So practicality is pretty decent. I have sat behind myself and I'm 6 foot and I do fit, but it is a tight enough squeeze. So if you are a bit taller, maybe keep that in mind. Boot space is 430 litres, so just for reference, that will be a bit more than a Toyota CHR at I think about 380, but less than something like a Karoq, which I think is in the 500s. Now, regardless of what you think of the burgundy, the interior on the CX-30 is just excellent. It's such a nice setup. It's just very elegant, very straightforward, very neat. Architecturally sound is the way I would put it. Everything makes sense and everything just looks right. I'm a big fan of the burgundy, and most of the people that I've shown the car to are very big fans too. They get this kind of moment where they open the door and just go, oh wow, that's very nice. It really would give some more premium brands a run for their money and beat some of them, to be honest. Really nice place to sit. Cliche, great interior. Me likely. So what's the CX-30 like to drive? Well, the first thing that did strike me was just how smooth everything feels in here. There's not a huge amount of interference from the drivetrain. You don't really feel the engine through the pedals. It's all very smooth. You feel very cosseted and comfortable and kind of away from everything that's going on up front. The 6-speed manual gearbox is very smooth, buttery smooth in fact, and it's very satisfying to use too. Very easy to roll through the gears. Now there are 3 engines to choose from in the CX-30 lineup. There's a Skyactiv X, which we have today, a Skyactiv G, which is a bit less power at I think 122 PS, and a Skyactiv D, which is the diesel choice, and that has 116 PS. Now powering this CX-30 is Mazda's Skyactiv X engine, and it is a 2-litre petrol with a mild hybrid setup. So it's good for 186 PS, and that is actually up 6 PS from last year's CX-30. It's also got 240 Newton meters of torque, which is up 16 Newton meters from last year's engine. A bit more power, a bit more torque, and improved fuel economy too at 5.7 litres per 100 kilometers versus I think 6 on last year's model. Now I will say a 2-litre petrol engine choice in this crossover market is strange nowadays, because what you'll find for most is maybe a 1 litre with a turbocharger and maybe a smaller capacity diesel is kind of typical of the range. So to go for a 2-litre petrol with no turbos is a strange choice, but Mazda believe in the technology of this engine and they do say it gives good fuel economy. That quoted figure is 5.7 litres per 100 kilometres. The average trip here on the computer is kind of closer to 7, which is pretty typical for real world versus what you're quoted. The engine has a much more relaxed and linear feel to it than you get in those smaller turbocharged units. So the power delivery is much smoother. Obviously the kind of fizziness that you get from those small turbocharged units is gone, but it is happy enough to rev out, and torque peaks at about 4,000 RPM. So do keep that in mind, that you will have to work it just to get the most out of it. Now the mild hybrid setup is not anything you will notice when you're driving. It doesn't power the engine, you don't have to plug it in and charge it, there's none of that going on. It just kind of works away in the background on some of the ancillaries, and you get little nice touches, like the stop-start system is a bit quicker and a bit slicker than it would be on some other cars without that little mild hybrid system. But yeah, as I said, you're not going to notice it driving, and it works away in the background and just tips along without you knowing anything about it. Now, the suspension on the CX-30 is a smidge stiffer than you might expect, and it is a bit stiffer than some of its competitors. But obviously, the upshot of that is that you get some decent handling out of this. Now, nothing mad and nothing that's going to set your pants on fire, but it handles well. You know where the four corners are, you can place it down a road very well, and yeah, it drives pretty impressively. It's a good little driver's car if you are after a crossover. Another area I have been very impressed with is the level of comfort on the motorway journey. So you're tipping along at 120 kilometers an hour. It's very smooth, it's very quiet. There's not a huge amount of road noise, not a huge amount of wind noise. Very kind of premium feel to it. That is helped thanks to the obviously 2-litre petrol engine, and that's only kind of ticking along at 2,500 revs when you're doing 120 kilometers an hour, which obviously helps with silence and quietness and just general comfort. We'll have a quick chat about pricing. So you can get yourself into a CX-30 for about 30,000 euro, and obviously that is the entry-level models. If you want to buy this anniversary model, it's the guts of 40,000 euro. So, you know, it is a pricey package considering. So maybe if you are a massive Mazda fan, it's the kind of thing you'd be after, because I think it's a limited run. It's kind of funky, it's kind of different, it's kind of cool looking. Whereas you can spend somewhere in the mid-30s and get a nice mid-spec GT Sport, I think, or GT, it's something along them lines. But yeah, you could spend in the mid-30s and get that, and probably have everything this car has, but without the kind of specific setup. And maybe it is just for the Mazda fans out there, the hardcore Mazda fans. If you would like to search for a Mazda CX-30 on our brand new, really fast searching site, please do click on the link above and have a look around. I think you'll like what you see. So thanks for coming along for the review. Please do leave a comment, thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already. But we'll see you again next week. Thank you, bye bye. La 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 la, la 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 la, la la la.